is not your usual legal practice. The African Israelite Justice Foundation is not your usual legal practice. You see, we focus primarily on cases involving injustice against African Israelite groups or injustice against individuals because he or she identifies as an African Israelite or an Israelite of African descent. In other words, we are not a general legal practice. Instead, we specialize on African Israelite cases. And also, family, please keep in mind, we are a brand new organization, not affiliated with any existing organizations. However, it is our hope to establish connections with all African Israelite groups and people here in the States and around the world. Family, we need to hear your stories of injustice so that we can begin to record, investigate, and identify the enemies of Israel hiding behind the veil, and then ultimately hold them accountable in a court of law. And as stated before, we are a brand new organization with limited funds, and we are in the process of expanding our resources to further enhance our legal team who will litigate our cases. And if you would like to join this historic cause, please share this message all over social media. Spread this message of IsraeliteJustice.org worldwide. And get this message from Kyrie to Kanye, from Whoopi Goldberg to Nick Cannon. And also share your stories of injustice or donate to the cause. And if you so choose to, you can remain anonymous and let us do all the work. After all, that's what the Israelite Justice Foundation is here for. We are here to fight for your right to be Israel. As always, thank you in advance. We appreciate you and love you, Israel. Take care, family. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Peace and blessings, family. Peace and blessings. So hopefully everyone is doing well. If you could, please, family, put a 1 in the chat if my audio sounds okay. Just make sure I have everything set up here. Hang on 1 second, family. Yeah, if my audio sounds okay, family, please put a 1 in the chat. So peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Oh, I see ones. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, family, for the super chat, for the super stickers. Thank you, thank you, thank you, family. I really appreciate it. And let's see if I can. Sister Carla Kimmons. Thank you, sister. And Coco Sheba. Toda Rabbi. Thank you, sister. All right. All right, family. Well, thank you for everyone for dialing in. Let me see if I can pull in my special guest here, none other than Pastor Kelly. How you doing, Pastor Kelly? You doing okay?
Hey, how's it going? Cause excuse my voice being off a little bit.
Oh,
I'm doing great. Yeah. At Tabernacles, I forgot to cover my throat up, and after giving the word and going to the campsite, that cold air hit it. So I'm good. It's just my voice sounds the way it sounds because of the cold air. Kind of made my voice get a little hoarse.
Oh, no worries. I'll try not to let you talk so much then. So no worries, but hopefully everyone is enjoying the feast days. I know everyone, not everyone observes on the same day. So whatever day you're at or in your feast day, or maybe you finished up with Feast of Tabernacles, I pray that it was well. Everyone had a chance to fellowship, and I'm not sure about you, but I know when I kind of observed it at home, and I felt as though I did have a visitation. so praise Yahuwah for that. So, all right, family, well, we're going to get into it. If you can, I know everyone is aware of what's going on. I apologize for smacking in advance. I'll try not to do that. note to self: don't snack before you get on the air because it makes you smack. So I apologize, family. But anyway, but I know everyone has been watching, what's been going on over in Israel, over in the land, and just wanted to add some additional information on there. If you guys are new to this channel, we're heavily in the history, right? We delve heavily into the history of Israel using old references, and these are references particularly with books that are been published before the 1850s, because those books tend to describe ancient Israelites as black, dark, swarthy, that sort of thing. And actually, one of the things that I've learned in doing these presentations and these online lives is I need to always touch on some of the references, some of the proofs that prove that we are the people, that Israel was indeed a black melanated people. So I'm just going to take a few minutes, family. I know for those of you that have seen this information before, I know you're probably rolling your eyes, but just bear with me, family. Like I said, this is just for the benefit of the new visitors that we have, just in case they're not aware. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch over to my browser, and hopefully I do this right. So hang on. Let's see. Go to Chrome, and let me see if I can go over to this here. All right. So hopefully you all can see a screen here. It says the British Museum. And so what we are looking at, and actually let me go back to the live to make sure everyone can see it. Can you all see the British Museum website? Put a 1 in the chat if you can, please, family. Just want to make sure I have the StreamYard working the way it should. All right. So just if you could, please, family, just put a 1 in the chat if you can see the. Okay. Thank you. All right. So you all should be able to see the British Museum. This is a relief. This is a exhibit currently in the British Museum. And this is one of the proofs that we bring out to prove and show that Israel was indeed an African people, right? And if you want to try to find this on your own, you can type in the British Museum, go to a Google browser, type in British Museum, Lakesh Relief. Lakesh Relief, you can see it here on the screen. I want to see if I can highlight it for you. Lakesh Relief, press enter. And then what you're going to look for, you're going to look for museum number 124911. That's 124911. And then once you go to the page, scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see a couple of icons here. Select the fourth one. Once you select the fourth one, that will show you the Israelites being led away captive by the Assyrians. And I'm just going to see if I can zoom in here so that you can see the phenotype of the Israelites. And as you can see, this is what we would refer to as nappy woolly hair. And not only that, family, there was one of the things that we did bring out in some of our videos. We did show that there was an archaeology dig site that was associated with this, and the results of that dig site, they identified the skulls, because basically there was a mass grave site at this site at Lakesh, because as a result, that city was conquered by the Assyrians. There was a lot of death, a lot of mutilation. And so indeed, they found a mass grave site. And basically it was a bunch of the Israelites that were dumped in there after the fact. The archaeologists, based off of the evidence that they found, they determined that these bodies were killed and they were brought into the mass grave site to be buried. And they identified the skulls as Egypto-Nubian skulls, so basically black skulls. So we basically have two pieces of evidence at this site to prove that Israel was indeed, or is, a black person. You have of course, the mural on the wall, which is what you see, or the relief on the wall, and we also have the archaeological results, which showed that the skulls were Egypto-Nubian. So again, that's just for the benefit of those, just in case we have any new visitors, just to let you know that we do have proof. We do have proof. In addition to that, some of us have, we've taken our DNA, and of course, what we do is that we pay attention to DNA results which show what we refer to as genetic distance value. And basically what the genetic distance value, for those, again, for the benefit of those who don't know, genetic distance value shows how closely related you are to a group or to a person. So when we run genetic distance value tests, what we found was that a lot of us, many of us are closely associated to the Limba in South Africa. And basically, out of all the tribes, out of all the groups that are in Africa, many of us are associated with the Limba. And if you don't know, of course, the Limba, they're the Limba through Tudor Parfit. Of course, they have the DNA and all that stuff that traces back to Israel. And even on this channel, I show you an old map. There's actually an old map that actually shows a city called Limba. It's actually in the territory of Moab. And of course, according to the Limba oral traditions, they actually married some of the women of Moab. So we also, that it lines up as far as what we know. In addition to that, in addition to our DNA matching up with the Limba, what I want to do is just show you a quick video of the Limba, just in case if you're wondering, well, where is Jerusalem? I know it's up for debate. Again, totally, it's wide open. We don't really care if somebody believes it's, over in Africa or it's over in the Middle East, but just to give you our 2 cents, where we believe Jerusalem is, what I want to do is I want to let you see or hear who the Limba themselves say they are, where they are from. And hopefully I'm actually looking through my video here. Hopefully I'll upload it. Oh, I got it here. All right, so hang on, family. Let me just upload this real quick.
The first question to meet you. Again, my name is Jedediah, and I'm here with the group. So we're going to do our question and answering. The first question to meet you, my brother. There's a belief in America that Jerusalem, Judea, is Canaan, is in southern Africa. Is that true?
That is not very true. Greetings to all who will be watching us. I'm Hillel and good Shabbos also. To just put that matter to rest, the issue is not very true. Judea is not located in southern Africa, and is.
So you're saying to me that is not true, and Judea is not located in southern Africa. You hear that? What he's just said here, and he's going to repeat it again. He said that is not true. And he says Judea is not in southern Africa. Continue.
Okay. And so he's going to go into a little bit more detail here, family. So just take a listen. Hopefully the audio on this video sounds okay. But let's take a listen. And I see a question in the chat that says, what tribe is Yoruba? We also believe that Yoruba is Judah as well. Haven't really gone into a whole lot of detail on that, but there is proof to show that Yoruba, as well as some of the Igbo, are Judah as well. But we also believe, and I believe, Pastor Kelly, you can keep me honest, share your thoughts as well. But I also believe that all 12 tribes are on the west coast of Africa. They've, the way that the history works out is that they've gotten there, over time. There were many different migrations over time. It's just that the Jews, or the Yehudi, and if you don't wonder what Yehudi is the word for Judah. But the Yehudi, they were the ones that got there last. The Yehudi from Spain and Portugal. Like everyone, it's almost like a big party, right? So everyone's coming over to the west coast of Africa. They're getting there at different times, different migrations. But then the last people to get there, who were spread all over, like they weren't just dumped, particularly in one place. Although in one place we do see a higher concentration of Judah, and that is in this place called the Slave Coast, which is also called the Kingdom of Judah. But they're also spread all over, right? I mean, the prophecy says that you will be, scattered to every country, to the four corners of the earth, right? So we see that in Africa as well. But good question, fam. Go ahead.
Excuse me, and I'm gonna get some tea here, so that way I could help my voice out here. But also dealing with Yoruba, Ephraim is the tribe that many are associating the Yoruba with. It's the tribe of Ephraim. I just thought I'd add that to there. Outside of that, everything else, you're absolutely correct. No, well, not saying that you're incorrect about
Oh,
what
it's
you
all
said
good.
about Ephraim, but yeah, you'll see the 12 tribes, even with the Igbo, when they did the interview with Shapira, Rabbi Shapira, they made it clear that they consist of all 12 tribes, even though he was making it a point to try to minimize them to the tribe of Dan, either Dan or Gad. I think it was Gad, but all 12 tribes, they made it clear they consist of all 12 tribes. Limba, likewise, all 12 tribes. But again, the Yoruba, for the most part, Ephraim, even though they identify with all 12 tribes, but it's been primarily the Ephraim.
Yeah, and the thing that used to throw me off, Pastor Kelly, was when I would see how the Israelites were, especially like the house of Judah was spread, particularly in the west coast of Africa. We would see them spread among the Yoruba, spread among the Igbo, spread in the Congo. And as a researcher, one of the most difficult things to track or trace is a people who's scattered among a people. Because oftentimes, of course, when they're among the people, they'll get integrated and incorporated, and they'll, marry and all this other stuff. But like that's what makes the tracing of Judah so difficult on the west coast of Africa, and that's also why when DNA came around and we were actually able to start using genetic distance value, why that was such a key metric for us to be able to trace our lineage. Because once we did that, when we started looking at the genetic distance value, we assumed that, hey, the history that we've got in the history books tell us that we're from the west coast of Africa. So if that's true, when we run the genetic distance value test, then the genetic distance value test would say that, hey, your closest tribe is Yoruba. Your closest tribe is Igbo, or whatever. Just pick a tribe on the west coast of Africa. But what we're finding out is that when you take the genetic distance value test, which is, like I said, which is different from a test that you get from, when you take it from like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, like the test results that they show you on the main page is usually not the genetic distance value results. It's something else. But if you take your results and you pull it into a tool like a GEDmatch, what's the other one? What's the other one that we use, Pastor Kelly?
Yeah, 23andMe, you have GEDmatch, My True Ancestry.
My True Ancestry, thank you. I was going to say ancient is DNA origins, but that's Dr. Ron L. Hikes. But yes, My True Ancestry. If you pull it into My True Ancestry or GEDmatch, those two sites have really good genetic distance value tools that'll show you which modern day tribe that you're most closest to, or that you're closest to. And when we do that, lo and behold, it didn't come back with the West Coast Africa tribe. It said Limba for a lot of folks. So, but like I said, just long story short, I know I'm a little bit long winded, but just long story short, that was a tool to help pinpoint, put a piece in the puzzle as far as who we are. But let me just finish this. Oh, go ahead, Pastor.
And real quick too, and just want to say this because I know some will, because of how we've been conditioned to read into the testing, some would kind of, and I've seen posts of some saying, well, they're glad that they are Judah and not some of the other tribes.
Oh.
So just want to say that the good thing about the way when we, as Benaiah laid things out, when you do your DNA results, especially when you use GEDmatch and you use My True Ancestry, you're really going to see all the tribes, even though it'll match you with the closest, but you're going to see all the tribes. So that means that, and the reason why I think that we are, when I say we here in the United States and to the Caribbeans and, in other places, South America, we're so key is because we tie all of that together. Because I see Limba, we see Limba in our DNA. We see Igbo in our DNA. We see Ethiopian in our DNA, Morocco. So we get to, us here is pretty much like the connector to our brothers and sisters that are overseas as far as the different tribes. So just thought I'd drop that in there just so that way, if you see multiple tribes there, it's to be expected because we all family, the Igbos, the Limbas, the Bambaras, and go right down the list of them. We're all family. So our DNA reflects that.
Hey, was it the New Jerusalem has the 12 gates for the 12 tribes of Israel? Hey, just as long as I can get in, fam. That's praise the Most High. That's as long as I can get in, praise the Most High. Whether it be as an Israelite or as a sojourner, cleaving unto Israel, just as long as I can get in, praise the Most High. All right. Well, let me just play the rest of this little clip. It's just a short clip, and this is just finishing up the testimony of the Limba, telling us where he's from or where Jerusalem is.
Yes, so I think as the Lemba people, we have quite a clear history in terms of where we came from. We were actually exiled at the destruction of the Second Temple to present-day Yemen, and traced through Ethiopia, and also later on down here, with also our arrival here was also the beginning of the building of the ancient Great Zimbabwe in Southern Africa here. So our history is quite clear, though it is oral, but we have a very strong oral and also factual history which has been proven both scientifically or even through the scriptures themselves. So that idea of that rumor or that fact, that talk of saying Southern Africa is the home of Canaan or Judea is more or less not very factual or not very true.
All right. Well, I know there was a lot of background noise, and it may have been hard to hear the brother, the Aki. But basically, he says that based off of their oral traditions, they have a clear understanding of their oral traditions, in which they came through Yemen, over into Ethiopia, and then from there they moved south through south into South Africa, and of course along the way there were cities that they set up along the way, and that there was DNA studies. I believe it was Tudor Parfait that headed the studies, but there was studies that was done where they did DNA tests, I think, in people in Ethiopia and also folks in Yemen, and they found that they were indeed related. So we have DNA matching up with their oral tradition. So just wanted to, like I said, throw that out there just to establish that, there are, at least on this channel, we use, old books, old references, DNA and archaeology and other things just to prove that the ancient Israel was and is a Black people. And also as far as proving like where Jerusalem is. And that's, just wanted to caveat that before we kind of got into the lesson, just in case you were wondering. But all right, family, let's go ahead and get started. Well, I know we've already gotten started. Let me pull up my presentation here. Hold on one moment. Let's see, add to stage. No, that's the wrong one. Okay, yeah, bear with me just for a moment. Here we go. All right. Okay, so back to the current state. So current state, we know that there's a lot going on over in Israel. You have you guys may have heard of the Gaza Strip and bombing and missiles and all this other stuff, and it may be confusing to a lot of folks, and maybe people are looking at that wondering, oh man, so where are we in prophecy? How does this line up with prophecy? Should I be worried about it? Should I be going to the gas station to get some gas? Should I be going to the grocery store to get some extra, non-perishable goods, that sort of thing, extra batteries? And don't get me wrong, family, it's always good to have all that stuff in your house just in case, those days are right around the corner. But I just wanted to share a few things with you that you may not be aware of. So let's get into it. And it says, a prudent man foreseeth evil and hideth himself, but a simple pass on and are not perished. Well, let's do this, fam. Let's do this first. So I'm going to try to give you some background information that'll help understand what's going on over in Israel. So you may have heard things like Hamas. You may have heard the name Hamas, and you may have heard the name Hezbollah. What does that mean? Who are these groups? Who are these people, right? So the history with Hamas, when you hear Hamas, Hamas is associated with Gaza. So you have Israel, right? And then you have the Gaza Strip. And so then there's a Muslim group called Hamas that is in Gaza. I think they're like the ruling, the ruling governing class or a group that's over there. So you have Hamas. But the thing to keep in mind with Hamas, so when you think of the Muslim groups, they're primarily two. I break them down into two primary groups. So you have the Sunni Muslims, who are the Muslims that's in Gaza, right? They're the ones that's associated with Hamas. So in Gaza, you have Sunni Muslims. Sunni Muslims are the majority Muslims in Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia is like 50-something%. But just keep that in mind. So in Gaza, you have Sunni Muslims, however you pronounce it, Sunni Muslims in Gaza. And the other countries, the surrounding countries that are also Sunni Muslims are Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Now, if you ever heard of the 6-Day War that occurred in Israel, guess which nations came against Israel to protect their people? It was Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. So now you can see why these neighboring countries came to the aid of their brothers that were in the Gaza Strip. Why? Because they were fellow Sunni Muslims. All right. Also, you may have heard the term Hezbollah, right? And these are groups. I believe they're labeled as terrorist groups by the U.S. But you also have the group called Hezbollah. Hezbollah are related to Shia Muslims, and forgive me if I mispronounce these names, but I believe they're called Shia Muslims. The countries that are Shia Muslims are Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, right? Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen. So as this war is occurring, one of the, let me see if I can, I may have to advance my screen before I start talking about it. But I just want to let you know that as this war advances, when Israel says we're about to do a ground offensive in Gaza, I want you just to understand that what they're about to do is about to do a ground offensive against the Sunni Muslims. And knowing that they're about to do a ground offensive against the Sunni Muslims, you have to understand who they're getting ready to piss off, right? They're about to piss off Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. If you notice, you have I don't know what, where you're getting your news from, but there was like an envoy from the U.S. to Egypt trying to get Egypt to condemn the attacks. And Egypt was like, I'm not saying anything against the brothers in Gaza. So Egypt stepped aside. So that lets you know where Egypt's coming from. And at the same time as Israel's getting ready to go into this major ground offensive into the Gaza Strip, which, it's inflammatory, family. I'm telling you, it's inflammatory. Like you're talking about getting ready to, this can definitely lead to World War III. because there's no way that Syria and Egypt and Jordan are just going to sit there and let Israel just go, commit this ground offensive. That's why, in my opinion, why this initiative has always been held at bay, because this was one of those things that people knew that, hey, if you guys do this, you're going to cause Syria, Egypt, and Jordan to go off, and anybody else. All right. But at the same time this is happening, family, at the same time Israel's about to do this, Israel's also exchanging missiles with Lebanon and Syria. Let's say, Lebanon and Syria. But in Lebanon, is Hezbollah in Lebanon. All right, Hezbollah in Lebanon. And so Israel is also engaging with Hezbollah, right? And this is why you heard from Iran. So Iran also made a threat because they're backing up their Shia brothers in Lebanon when, as Israel's making the exchange between Lebanon and Israel. This is why this has the potential to get out of hand really, really fast. I just want to make sure that we're all aware, because like I said, when you hear about this stuff in the news, you may not be aware of who's who. Who's the Sunni Muslims, which group is the Sunni Muslims and which group are the Shia Muslims. And this will help explain why certain countries are responding to certain events. Like, you start to see an escalation between Lebanon and Israel, look out for Iran. And if I don't know if you saw or heard about the response that Iran gave. Iran said, America, if you engage in Israel, we're going to attack your bases in Iraq. As you can see, the Shiites are in Iraq. Oops, went forward.
Well, even to that point that you laid out, this is where we go back to what happened occurred with Desert Storm. When we start dealing with that, when we think about 911, I believe most people really don't know or may not be aware that the day that the whole situation happened with 911, the United States, hours later, began dropping bombs in Iraq. And so when you start understanding, as you pointed out, with the different groups out there, the target was, of course, the blame was put on Osama bin Laden, but United States were bombing Iraq immediately.
Right.
Because I remember when I saw that, and I was like, okay, so we're in Iraq, but not in Afghanistan. And when I say we, because I'm prior military, so that's kind of a habit of mine of saying we. But I learned a lot even when I was in the military, going over to those areas to see what it was all about. It was all about resources. It's all about oil. That was the whole situation with Iran. And so, to your point, that's why I'm not surprised and wouldn't be surprised, because of what's the news are putting out there as far as the media. When you hear phrases like, this is our 911, that is to provoke, to instigate a response, trigger a response from the United States and its allies. That's what that's all about. When it says that, when they say this is our 911, and you guys know I'm big on when we're dealing with numbers. I got a clip here, and maybe Benet, I'll share it if we can.
Yeah, anytime you're ready, Pastor Kelly.
And I'm going to let you hear the clip first, because I'm going to upload it later to We Woke Now. But I want y'all to hear the clip first, because I know Benaiah, myself, we share a lot of information, and some of the other groups that are out here share a lot of information, and some of it I know may seem like we're just going geek mode, but we put this information out there for a reason. So Benaiah, if I can, if it's okay, I can share this. I'm gonna do it right now.
Yep, and I will look for it in the Yeah, and I did see a question in the chat about, what's the difference between the Shia Muslims and the Sunni Muslims. I'm not sure what the differences are as far as beliefs, but like I said, the main thing that I pay attention to are the associations. Like with Turkey being a Sunni Muslim, I saw in the chat where someone was asking, like, well, what did Turkey say? And that is a good question, because you have to understand, like, Turkey has nukes, right? Turkey is a beast when it comes to their military. So the last thing Israel wants is for Turkey to flip on it, right?
Well, see, in Turkey been very supportive of the United States.
Yes,
because the United States, when when you're engaging far as Iran, being Air Force, many had to go to Turkey.
It's really
to provide support through Turkey. So, and that's where, when we're dealing with this situation here, that beacon call, like you pointed out, that's being put out there, the whole goal is to kind of like a call to order. And we'll touch on that in a second here. But yeah, Turkey, there are U.S. Facilities out in installations out in Turkey, in some of the other areas in that region.
Yeah. You want me to go ahead and play the clip, Pastor Kelly?
Yeah, if you could play the clip, because I think I have something right in the very beginning. So if
Okay.
you want to play the clip, that'd be great.
Okay, here it goes.
unfathomable, and
Matter of fact, I'm gonna start it over here.
it's really unfathomable, and 600. I hope everyone understands. 600 fatalities in Israel. 600 fatalities in Israel. 600 fatalities in Israel.
Richard.
All right, so let me pause it there, and I'm gonna skip to another area that's gonna go a little further with that. And I hope you guys caught this. Let me go to another section.
It's really unfathomable.
Let me do it here.
Fines.
All right,
Fines in order to show their oppressor. Document.
It's really unfathomable, and 600. I hope everyone understands. 600 fatalities in Israel. 600 fatalities in Israel. 600 fatalities in Israel. It's really unfathomable, and 600. I hope everyone understands. 600 fatalities in Israel proportionally is like having here 20,000 American fatalities. 20,000 people who are being butchered, massacred by these savage terrorists. It's our 9/11.
What's your... So we can stop that. It's another section we can play a little later, but
Okay.
I wanted the people to hear. He said 600, and I've been teaching for years that 600, that number 6 is prevalent when you're dealing with Jewish mysticism. And when we start studying about the 6 million, you'll see that they were pushing that number, in the early part of the turn of the 20th century, starting in like 1913. There's plenty of articles that are out there that gives clarity on, and give exact dates of them pushing this 6 million number. So
Right.
that's why when I heard that, I was looking for it. I was like, I know I'm going to hear a 600 or 6,000, whatever the case may be. I'm just waiting to hear it. And I heard it. I caught it real quick. I was like, all right, let me put it in. Let me clip it up. You know what I mean? So we can have this for a discussion. So go ahead, cuz. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna land back on what you said. Like that's a good catch, because actually I was looking for that, because we know that the history behind the Holocaust numbers, and just for the sake of those, again, forgive me, fam, if I reiterate certain things, but for the sake of those, if we have anyone new, on this channel, we do teach the history of the Holocaust, and I also teach how. I have a video, I believe it's called Black Germany, how the Holocaust started in Africa. That's one of the things when, that is funny to me when you hear people, especially like, was it Nick Cannon, when he had his issue, and then, the I believe the Ashkenazi rabbi wanted to teach Nick about the Holocaust or the history. And you best believe he left out the black folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you best believe when Nick Cannon got the Ashkenazi version of the Holocaust, they left out the fact that it started in Africa. They left out the fact the concentration camps were in Africa first. That when you see the pictures of the emaciated people that were being tortured, that was in Africa first. About the experiments, that was in Africa first by the Germans.
Yep.
And then they took that into Germany, where there were also black people, and that's another thing that they disregard. They just totally delete the black history that's in Germany, and delete the history of blacks being in the concentration camps. And actually, blacks were actually treated worse than the Ashkenazi Jews. You actually have documentation in the books where it talks about how they hated black folks worse. Remember, they were an Aryan nation. They wanted the white hair and the blue eyes and the blonde hair. The blonde hair and the blue eyes and the white skin. Well, guess what? Black is opposite of that. So they really weren't having no black folks, right? And even the children, from the mixed races, from whenever forgive me if I call them Africans, but just for the benefit of conversation, when Africans mixed with the white Europeans and they had the children, they literally called them the Rhineland bastards. Like, that was their derogatory name. And they euthanized those children. Like, they made it so that those children could not have children. They would perform those surgeries, those operations, without anesthesia to children. And if they did that to the children, what do you think that they did to the adults? Go ahead, Pastor.
And even to that point, the chemicals that they were using there in Germany is the same chemicals, the same drugs that they were using in Israel on the Ethiopians, that came from Ethiopia to there. That was caught about, I want to say about 7 to 8 years ago, that they were forcing the women to be injected with that drug that sterilizes them. And what was discovered is they saw that their numbers were dropping versus increasing. And it began to raise a number of red flags. And that's where the minister of drugs or whatever came out and fessed up to saying that they were forcing, they were giving that drug, administering that drug to the women, and because it went from over 100,000 of them there to the numbers like really shrunk.
Right.
So that, just to kind of tie it into what you pointed out, they were using that same drug over in Israel on the Ethiopians.
Yep. And I was trying to pull up, let me see if I can find it here, where it talked about the estimates, because I just wanted to make sure we cover our bases, just to show folks that, one, when we're talking about the Holocaust, we're also talking about black folks, because that's one of the things that is deleted or left out of history. And then two, when we're talking about the numbers, one of the things we point out is the fact that when you look it up, in the dictionary or wherever you're looking it up, it'll tell you for the most part that it is an estimate, and that an estimate by definition is not an exact number. An estimate is an estimate, right? And it actually even says as much in the United States Holocaust Encyclopedia or the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. So the things that we're saying are things that you can find in the United States Holocaust Museum. So just in case anyone tries to get funny with that. So
and real quick, Benel, just to your point, because I like to show sources, just to keep certain groups at bay. So if you don't mind, I'm sharing a PowerPoint that kind of tie into what you just pointed out.
see if I can find it. Is it this one?
Let me see here. Yep.
Okay.
So this is Poland, family. This is dealing with the Auschwitz tablets. And I'll just read this real quick. It says here, Poland agrees to change Auschwitz tablets. After 50 years of deflecting the request of Jewish groups, the Polish government has agreed to change the wording on stone tablets at Auschwitz and Birkenau, the adjacent Nazi camp, where more than 1 million Jews died during World War II. The move follows decades of appeals by Jewish groups. Now, notice what it says. The move follows decades of appeals by Jewish groups who say the current plaques do not fully reflect the suffering of Jews there and focus too heavily on the camp's non-Jewish victims. So that gives you more insight. It says that focus too heavily on the camp's non-Jewish victims. While thousands of non-Jews were among the estimated 1.5 killed at Auschwitz, the victims were predominantly Jews, or Jewish rather. So to the left here on your screen, this is the original tablet. It says 4 million people suffered and died here at the hands of the Nazi murderers between the years 1940 and 1945. But if you notice here on the right, that number shrank tremendously. So it went from 4 million, and I'll just zoom to this so you can see it. Forever let this place be a cry of despair and a warning to humility, where the Nazis murdered about, getting to your point, Benalia, about the estimates, about 1.5 million men, women, and children, mainly Jews. So it doesn't give you a definitive number.
Right.
It just gives you estimates. But we do know, as it pointed out in this article, that the numbers were primarily reflecting non quote Jewish people. So it says from various countries of Europe. So the book that I use a lot, or quote out of a lot, page 3 of the what you call it, the Jewish Almanac, they have a list of the different areas. And I did the numbers, and it's much lower. Now, we're not denying that a Holocaust occurred, but just with their sources, just what we shared here, the numbers went from 4 million to 1.5, and it tells you mainly Jews. But even if we go off that number, when I did the calculations, it was well under 1 million, but still, even if we go off of 1.5, to go from 4 million to 1.5, you're looking at a number of 2.5 million. So if you take that and you take that percentage and go right across the board, then that'll give you more of a ballpark of what the actual numbers are.
Yeah. And to your point, I am going to show you that they say something to that effect. Let's see here if I can figure out how to get back to my other screen here. Let's see, add to stage, and then share this tab. So this is further proving the statement you just made, Pastor Kelly. So United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, right? And this is the Holocaust Encyclopedia. And this is what they say. It says, and the reason why those numbers are changing, like, let's listen to what it says. It says, there is no single Nazi German document that accounts for every death in the Holocaust. Rather, there are hundreds of thousands of pages of Nazi German documents that recorded this information. One of the best documented aspects of the Holocaust by the perpetrators are transports to the gassing operations at killing centers. Thus, we know with some specificity the precise death toll for each of the 5 killing centers of the Holocaust. So that's one.
Hey, cuz can I pause real quick?
Yep.
Because I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Family, let's be respectful in the chat with your comments. Let's not put this channel in the or getting a potential strike or warning based upon the comments that you are posting inside the chat. You know, even though we all feel some kind of way with some of the things that we had to be subjected to, but let's still be the example that the Most High has called us to be. So let's be careful of the name calling when it comes to those other communities. Let's keep it respectful here, and let's be respectful to Benaiah. Let's not put his channel in jeopardy.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, just wanted to let you know that there is not a single document that has the information. So basically, they had to work to try to come up with that number. You know, had to use basic, different documents and stuff like that. And it says it in a couple of different places here, like where it says the statistics below were calculated using a number of different sources. These sources include, and it goes through, Nazi German reports, records, pre-war, post-war demographic studies, records created by Jews during and after the war, documented, created by resistance groups. You can see it, family, and underground activists, as well as other available external archive sources. So just wanted to show that it's not a set number, and that it's an educated guess using various sources. All right. Do you have any other comments on that, Pastor?
And again, to the point that you made into the source that I shared with the polling, 2.5 million just from that location. That will knock down almost half of the number, 6 million number. So when you take in consideration and apply that same percentage across the board, it's lower, just as you laid out.
Yeah. And as far as like the estimates, as far as, how many people were impacted by the war so far, we know that for the most part, it is an estimate, right? And that's because when you see, I kind of played a little bit in the intro where you could see the airstrikes. There's some footage of them taking out like an entire apartment building, an entire apartment building. And they didn't bother to count to see how many people were in the apartment building before they took it down. Right. So just throwing it out.
And another thing I want to, with that video that I shared, this will kind of tie into what you pointed out, because I don't think that people really understand the conditions that that's going on over there and on the strip over there with the Hamas. So I have a clip with the news reporter Richard Engel. It's like within here it's like a minute and a half, and he gives clarity. He literally used the term prison-like conditions that they're under in this area.
Yeah. Is it? Are you able to play it, Pastor Keller, or do you need me to advance it?
You have to share that on the screen.
Let me see. Oh, I see it. Hang on. Here you go. Yep. Oh man, don't tell me I deleted it. You may have to add it back. Let's see. Let me add this.
Please be respectful with your comments. Also,
was it this one?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to a section here. Let's see here.
Most people never obtain it, or you need.
All right, I'm going to go to.
Here
we go.
Open air prison, or it's described as the occupation of the Palestinian.
Almost there. Here we go.
Well, there's a long answer to that, in that the occupation of the Palestinian territories. When you go to Gaza is often compared to the world's biggest open-air prison, or it's described as the world's biggest open-air prison. And Raf was just talking about that a moment ago. And by the way, he's doing a fantastic job, and I hope people are recognizing that. The area has two cities. It has Han Yunis and Gaza City. The rest of it is sort of desert and farmland, and it is densely populated, and it is run like a prison. If you are inside the Gaza Strip, you can't leave. You need permission from the Israelis to exit, which is very difficult to obtain. Most people never obtain it. Or you need the permission in the south from the Egyptian government. They also rarely give permission. So if you are born in Gaza and you've done nothing except live there your whole life, you are still, your life is to live as a prisoner inside this territory. So the amount of frustration, the amount of hopelessness, the amount of rage and anger that is there is directed at Israel. And that's why when people who are there say we are delivering, or Hamas can claim that it is delivering the vengeance and delivering the punishment against the jailers, against the occupiers that the people of the Gaza Strip crave. So that's why they frame this as an act even of self-defense, that they are breaking out of their confines in order to show their oppressors, to give them a taste of their own medicine. That's Hamas's argument.
It's really
So yeah, there you go, cuz I just wanted to just let the people hear that to get an idea of the people. Cuz I mean that strip, that Gaza Strip, can you imagine being in a territory twice the size of DC?
Yep.
But you have anywhere from 2 to 3 million people living there, and they're born in that place and can't leave.
Yeah. And so, and to your point, Pastor Kelly, you know, one of the things that people don't talk about are the events that led up to the the incident. Almost like it's almost like if you guys ever played sports. I forgot who I was talking with, having this conversation with, but if you ever played sports and you're on the field of play, and somebody pushes you or punches you or does something to you and you retaliate, 9 times out of 10 they're going to catch the person that retaliates, right? And so in this case, they didn't necessarily catch what happened beforehand. And so what I'm going to do, let's see if I can share this screen. Let's see. Share this tab instead. Okay, so hopefully you all can see this tab. I just wanted to show you that there's some, there's really, I'm trying to phrase my words carefully here. The justification that the other side was using is what you see on the screen. All right. This was just one of the things that led up to the attack. And that's assuming that the rockets came from Gaza, because that's one of the things that I was trying to confirm was, where did the rockets get fired from? Right. I'm trying to confirm that using some neutral sources, but so far I haven't been able to confirm it. But anyway, let's go back to here. I just want to see if hopefully you can hear the audio on this. I'm not sure if it'll play right here. So hang on one second. Share this tab. Let's see. Let's do share this tab instead. And hang on, let me get past this commercial. Here we go. All right.
Are you playing anything, cuz? Because you kind of.
Oh, you can't see it? Let me see.
No, we can't see or hear anything.
Oh man. Okay. Well, yep. So let's see. View tab, StreamYard. Yeah.
I'll stop. Let me stop my screen so that way you can, to make sure it doesn't interfere.
Yeah. Bear with me, family. I'm gonna share a couple of different tabs here. Let's see. Just curious to see if it comes up on the screen. Stage. Okay, so it shared that one. All right, and then let me see if it can share this next one. Let's see, StreamYard. Use StreamYard tab. Okay, yeah, I apologize, family. Sometimes these there we go. All right, so I'm going to see if let me know. Yeah, let me know if you can hear the audio on this thing. Hang on a second. I'm going to back it up.
Disputed site of Al-Aqsa is a huge factor in Hamas's attack on Israel. In fact, the militant organization described the surprise assault on Israel on Saturday as an operation in.
Are you all able to hear the audio on that one?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll start it over and just we'll listen to the first few seconds of it.
The disputed site of Al-Aqsa is a huge factor in Hamas's attack on Israel. In fact, the militant organization described the surprise assault on Israel on Saturday as an operation in defense of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. In fact, this has triggered yet another conflict around the disputed site. Now, this particular site is among the most contested and conflicted religious sites in the world. So, well, yes, the Al-Aqsa Mosque was actually one of the immediate reasons behind Hamas's attack on Saturday. Let's try and decode the Al-Aqsa factor for you. So, Al-Aqsa essentially is a holy site for both Muslims and Jews. Where is it located? Well, it sits in a 35-acre site. It's located in East Jerusalem that Israel actually annexed back in 1967 during the Arab-Israel War. Now, it's largely considered occupied territory across the world. So Muslims call it Haram al-Sharif, and it's the third holiest site for the Muslims after Makkah and Medina, and the Jews call it Temple Mount.
Yep. So just before all this stuff kicked off, there was an incident that occurred at the mosque. And from what I could tell, I don't think this was the only incident, but this was just one of like the straw that broke the camel's back. So.
Now, the Al-Aqsa currently is managed by a trust controlled by Jordan. However, it's important to mention here that Israeli forces have a huge presence on the site. Now, initially, Jews and Christians were allowed to visit the site, but they were not allowed to pray inside the mosque. But over the years, due to the presence of Israeli security forces in the past couple of years, they've started allowing Jews to actually pray at the mosque. In fact, Israeli religious nationalists and leaders have started making several visits to the site, and that is being allowed by Israeli forces. In fact, in its statement on Saturday, Hamas said it in so many words that Jewish prayers at the site amount to aggression, and this aggression has increased significantly in the past couple of years. In a sense, making it clear that one of the central reasons behind this unprecedented escalation that has led to the deaths of several hundred people, both in Israel and Gaza, was actually the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But this is not the first time that this particular site has actually...
Okay. All right. So I'll leave it there, family, just to let you know that there was an incident at the mosque, and it's been like an ongoing incident. But just to let you know, let you see that there was some things that led up to it. You know, it wasn't just a one-sided affair, and that just things just kind of happened out of the blue. And again, not that there's justification for for any of that violence types, any of the violence, but just to show you that they do show justification on the other side. All right, family. So let's circle back to our presentation. Like I said, I don't want to keep you long, but remember, we started off by taking a look at the two groups, Hamas and Hezbollah. Right. And I showed you that in Gaza, where Israel is getting ready to initiate a ground offense, there are Sunni Muslims in the Gaza Strip. And the countries that are majority Sunni Muslims are Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. So what to expect is that when Israel does their ground offensive, we expect one or many of these countries to start to have some problems and to maybe engage with Israel. Also, there's Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the other group that's exchanging fire with Israel, and they are composed of Shia Muslims. And the surrounding countries that are majority Shia Muslims are Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, right? And so and with that in mind, what we would expect is that if the conflict between Israel and Lebanon heats up, expect some interaction with Iran, Iraq, and Yemen. All right. So one of the last things I guess we'll cover because like I said, fam, I don't want to keep you too long, is, if, like I said, if you're new to the channel, just trying to figure out, what we're about, what I said at the top of the channel, here we use old references, to show that the ancient Israelites were a Black melanated people. We also would point people to the London or British Museum, where there's a Lakesh relief. And if you take a look at the Lakesh relief, you can actually see a relief of the ancient Israelites, which are showed to be a Negroid people. And also that there is an archaeological site that goes along with that, where those skulls and remains were identified as Egypto-Nubian. So just, proof upon proof upon proof that the ancient Israelites were a melanated people. So oftentimes when we do that, the question that comes up is like, well, if ancient Israel was a dark melanated people, then who are the people that aren't dark melanated, that looks like Negroes in the land of Israel today? And so the way that we view what's going, and it's all about perspective, right? And I think Pastor Kelly, we talked about this too. If you get the people of Israel wrong, you're going to get prophecy wrong. You know what I mean? Like if you fail to understand that ancient Israel was a dark melanated black Negroid people, and that you're not looking for those people today to help you interpret prophecy, you're going to be way off, right? You're going to be way off. And I believe Pastor Kelly, did you have anyone? Did you come across any folks that were trying to interpret prophecy based off of Israel, being a European people? Because I know I have. I've seen some of the Christian channels where they would say things like, "Oh yeah, this is the war of Gog and Magog," and I think that's what you showed on your presentation, right, Pastor Kelly?
Yes, and you have quite a few, of course, the Christian sect. They're pushing that the apocalypse, the what's that term for the last war that they what's the word? I can't even think of the word now.
Is it the 1,000-year war? God,
No, not
war?
the 1,000-year war.
Yeah.
I can't think of the final war that they have a label on.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank, brain dead right now, brain freeze. But nevertheless, they are using Ezekiel 38 of using that to supposedly prove that this is the war between Gog and Magog and so forth. So that's what I've been seeing in these YouTube streets on a few Christian channels, and also seeing that as well within the, not a lot, but some within the Israelite groups, discussions. I've even gotten tagged in a few of them of associating this to being that battle between Gog and Magog. For me, it's if we go to the scriptures, we definitely see that this is not that war of Gog and Magog, because as you pointed out, that when we read Revelation chapter 20, that occurs after the 1,000-year peace. Armageddon, that's what I was thinking of. The Battle of Armageddon. But yeah, some are using this to kind of point to the battle of Gog and Magog and all those that ties into that. And so,
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to do a teaching earlier, but because of my voice not being where it needs to be.
Oh, no problem.
So
No problem.
yeah. So I pushed it off till for a couple of days so I could get my voice back.
Yeah,
But it in there, to your point, Benaiah, what I focus on in the teaching, you gave a great point that we have to identify who's who.
Yep.
When you see Meshach, who is Meshach? Who is Tubal? Who is Magog?
Yep.
Who is all these different groups? And for me, and for those that haven't, maybe new to what I teach, when I look at World War III, I count the transatlantic World War. If we count it as a world war, the things that happen to occur to our people, we'll see that we're not anticipating a World War III, but can actually be anticipating like a World War IV, World War V, because the transatlantic World War met every requirement of what identify or what defines a world war. There was multiple countries that came together to attack a certain demographics of people in Africa, which was our ancestors. The Pope in the in 1442, he put into law, he signed the edict to apply the contemporary rules of war to our ancestors, to your point earlier, Benaya, to West Africa, and they were well aware of who was there. So when we look at just the very definition of what a world war is, you can look it up, family, and you'll see the transatlantic world war, even though it's the slave trade, what they dumbed it down to, was actually a world war. And I mean, millions upon millions upon millions. That's like the Holocaust times 100. You know what I mean? Times 1,000. Times 1,000,000. Because of the atrocities, the things that occurred, it was an actual war. So just thought I'd point that out, that when you study this history, when you start dealing with the prophecies, you start dealing with Revelation, as you pointed out with the 1,000-year peace, I believe that, whatever jumps off, something's going to happen that's going to really reveal who we are to the world. Because Matthew chapter 24 makes it clear. It says, after the great tribulation, Israel's going to cry. So we're going to cry like never before. Right? We're going to cry like never before. Then we're going to see the signs of his return. And I believe that we're in that area here. So just to kind of tie it in with what we're discussing tonight, that lines right up with as we, when we're dealing with the prophecies. So those are some of the things that I have heard people mention is, the battle of Gog, Magog, and all the others that are taking their side in Ezekiel 38.
Hallelujah. Yeah, thank you for that, Pastor. Thank you for hanging in there. I know your voice is you need some tea. So
man, I just drank a whole thing of it too.
Man, hey, you just need some rest. So that's fine. We'll kind of wrap it up here. I'll just leave you with two things here, family. And that is, as we were talking, it just occurred to me, and I've been meaning to do this for a long time. And a shout out to Brother Dante Fortson. So if you are ever interested in finding references that prove that ancient Israel was a black, dark-skinned, melanated people, there's a website called blackhistoryinthebible.com. That's blackhistoryinthebible.com. And it's created by our brother Dante Fortson. And he has done an outstanding job of putting this website together. And on this page, what you'll find is a repository of hundreds of references which speak to Israel being black. And again, what we found in doing this research, family, is the secret sauce to finding this information and to proving beyond a shadow of a doubt using hundreds of books is simply finding books with with a publication date of roughly 1850 or older. So basically, we just look at the old books, and then we look at the histories, particularly of the Jews or the Yehudi of Spain and Portugal, and there you have it. You'll find that the exact same definition, description of the Israelites being a dark melanated people over and over again is one of the most consistent, reproducible things that you can do whenever you're doing this research. And that's why, especially on channels like mine and other channels that have used this easy formula, they're able to put out documentaries that can withstand any scrutiny. So just want to bring you guys to this website. Again, this is by our brother Dante Fortson. They, like I said, they've done an outstanding job of not only collecting the information, but they've cataloged it for you. They even put it in, put the time, the dates in there for you, family. So definitely, if you're interested in finding this truth, check out his website, family. This is the way to go, the place to start. This is an excellent place to start. All right. And then the last thing, and I'll mention it's only because we mentioned it just a few minutes ago, and that is, so like I said, the question that often comes up is, well, hey, you guys have an awful lot of information that proves that you all are the people, or at least proves that Israel is a black melanated people. I haven't really talked about the evidences or the proofs that proves that we so-called African Americans are so-called Negroes in the diaspora are the people. I haven't done that in this particular live, but we also have a preponderance of evidence as far as that's concerned. But we'll save that for another day. But like I said, the question that we normally get is that, okay, well, hey, you guys have all these books and evidences that shows that ancient Israel was a black melanated people. Then who are the people that are in Israel today? And one of the things that I like to share with our brothers and sisters, let me see if I can bring it up on my screen here. Let's see, share this tab. All right, so hopefully you can see this tab and just hop back over. Okay, there you go. All right, so one of the things I like to do is we like to use DNA to prove who we are. All right, we like to use DNA to prove who other people are around the world. And sure enough, there was I say a relatively recent DNA study, but it's a modern day DNA study where in this study, they trace back the origin of the Ashkenazi Jews to a founder group of, as you can see here in the Los Angeles Times, of 330 people from the Middle Ages. Now, this was actually it was a big discovery, a big research that was done. So that's why what you'll see is you'll find this story carried in multiple publications. And if you actually dig down into the actual publication itself, this is where you get the most interesting metrics. And I'll just kind of, like I said, I'll just give you a synopsis here. Most high willing, what we'll do is that we'll get into this in greater detail at a later date. But at a high level, family, what they found is that all Ashkenazi, their origins can be traced back to this founder group, right? I believe it's in Italy, of 330 people. And what they found was that group was consisted mainly of two groups. One group with their origins that could be traced to countries in the Middle East, like Iran, Iraq, that sort of stuff. And the other founder group was a group that could be traced back to or over to Russia, the territory of the Khazars. So this is how this story, this news that we're following today actually ties back to Ukraine. Like if you're thinking that, oh man, this stuff that's happening over in Israel, it's not related to Ukraine. No, it's not, family. It is related. Same people. And what I mean by that is that DNA wise, one of the other founder group that was identified in this study is the DNA group that traces back to the territory of the Khazars. And I know that it's funny because some people try to make this out to be a controversial statement or subject, but it really isn't, family. Because for a lot of this stuff, what I find is that there is an easy button, a super easy button. And let me switch screens here. And the easy button for this is in the territory. Let me see. Let me go back over to see if I can pull up my slides again. All right. So you can ignore what you have on the screen. I'm just going to advance past all this stuff.
And while you're doing that, to your point, because of that article that you held up had on the screen from the LA Times. Also, I have the actual research from the Nature Communication, because that article makes reference to Nature Communication. And if you go to that publication that they put out there, it really goes into the details to your point.
Yeah, and that, as I was actually looking for that, I actually have it in a slide because I did a presentation on it, but I didn't get a chance to take those slides out of the PowerPoint. But but in that slide, it does show you that the origin, like the founder group, was composed of two groups. Like I said, one group, they traced it to the Middle East, places like Iran, Iraq, Syria, that sort of thing, and the other founder group was traced back to Russia, right, and the territory of the Khazars. And what you see on your screen, I'm just going to show you that the territory of the Khazars had multiple, it had different names over time. At one point it was called the Yamnaya. Then at another time it was called the Scythians, right? And then eventually it was called the Khazar Empire, right? But like I said, the easy button for this to figure out, who's who is, the game changed, family, when archaeologists and researchers were able to extract DNA from ancient remains. Like when they came to an archaeology site and they saw bones and remains, and then they were able to take DNA or extract DNA from a tooth. And then based off of that DNA, they could identify what haplogroup or what group that this particular individual belonged to. That changed the game. That settled once and for all who's who. And why do you say that, Brother Benaiah? Well, when they took a look at the ancient remains for the Yamnaya, which is the territory of the Khazars, eventually, when they took a look at the Yamnaya, let me see if I have that here. No, I didn't add that one. I think I have it on a different slide. But basically, when they took a look at the Yamnaya, they came up with the same group that was the DNA group it's like a R1b group, which is the same group that's found in the founder group of the Ashkenazi Jews. Let me see that again. When they extracted the ancient DNA from the Yamnaya, it was the exact haplogroup of the Ashkenazi, one of the founder groups. Because remember, the Ashkenazi had two founder groups. The founder group that was found to be in Russia had the same haplogroup of the Yamnaya. So that is the easy button.
Because to your point too, in family, when you really listen to everything that Benaiah is pointing out, and when you read the scriptures, even when we deal with Ezekiel 38, you'll see how all those groups are related. You'll see the Russians, you'll see the Ukrainians, you'll see the Hungarians, you'll see the Germans, you'll see all of them tying into Meshach, Tubal, Magog, all those guys. So it's a lot that what Benaiah is pointing out here in these presentations here.
Yeah, and we cross-check our references. In other words, we don't just use one source. So just to because one of the things that we also looked at was the phenotype, like what did these people in this region look like? And one of the sources that we pulled was Tacitus, and Tacitus described these the people there as, it says, hence too same physical peculiarities throughout so vast a population. All have fierce blue eyes, red hair, huge frames, right? So one of the things that we find when we take a look at the description of the people in this land is that they had red hair, blue eyes, fair skin, right? Red hair, blue eyes, fair skin. And that was a motif that we found over and over again, depending on what references that you actually took a look at. Like this is another one from the Jewish Forward, where it talked about this one is actually quoting an older reference, and I actually have I believe I have this older reference, but just for the ease of reading, I'll read this one. It says, their complexions are white, their eyes blue, their hair flowing and predominantly reddish. And when we cross-checked that with the DNA of the blue eyes, what we found was that there's a separate DNA study that shows blue eyes originated from the territory of the Khazars. So the fact that one of the descriptions of the inhabitants of the land was that they had blue eyes also was a secondary confirmation that these people were indeed from the territory of the Khazars. Did you have something, Pastor Kelly?
I know I'm listening to you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I know we're going long, family. I didn't want to make this too long. Like I said, just wanted to bring some information to you, particularly the information about the different Muslim groups in which countries that they're associated with, and what to expect when the Israeli ground offensive takes place. I just wanted you to be aware of what countries that's going to impact and what countries you can expect to see a response from. All right, family. Well, hopefully this blessed you. And like I said, feel free to go back and take a look at it and listen to it over again. But thank you all for tuning in. Pastor Kelly, did you have any comments? I know your voice is hoarse. But did you have any hoarse comments to make before we drop?
No, I just want to say great discussion. And I'll be, if my voice permits, if it, depending on how it goes, I'll do my live on Wednesday night, and I'll be covering more, going into like the scriptures with identifying who's who with the scriptures. And so feel free to join us over there. And I'm sure we're going to have more things that's going to happen between now and Wednesday that we'll be able to discuss as well.
What's your channel?
Really appreciate it.
What's your channel, Pastor?
We Woke Now. We Woke Now is the primary channel, and I also have We Woke Now Extended. That's where I broadcast all of our Shabbat services on that particular channel, our backup channel. We Woke Now Extended is the backup channel.
Okay, so family on YouTube, just definitely subscribe to We Woke Now, and like Pastor Kelly said, he's going to go into this in greater detail once his voice feels better. So
yeah.
Well, family, hey, thanks for tuning in. Love you, family. Again, thank you for your prayers, family. Thank you for your support, and I pray for that you all stay safe. Pray for your well-being as well, family, and love you. Take care, family. Shalom.